Ooh, the most above average podcast in the galaxy.
Turn the light off, like your memory
Welcome to the most above average podcast in the galaxy. This episode is brought to you by Novello. Whether you run a grocery store, cannabis dispensary, a peptide company, or anything in between, your business runs on payments. But here's the truth. Most companies are unknowingly throwing away thousands of dollars every month in unnecessary processing fees. At Novello, we handle it all. Credit cards, bank transfers, and even crypto, securely and seamlessly. Anywhere in the world, we cut the fat from your payment processing to make every transaction smoother and put those extra dollars right back into your business where they belong. Stop overpaying, start keeping more of what you earn, and visit novello.net to see how much you could be saving today. That's NIVELO.net. As always, my friends, I am your host, Coach Erick, but unfortunately, Josh could not be with us here today. He's got a lot of stuff going on, but I can tell you, this is probably one of the more weird ones. I got a call from his mother the other day and said that Josh was actually arrested again. And I said, how can that be? He was literally just in Mexico. What's going on with him? She said that he got into a fight with a police officer at the mall and said, try me, dog. I got that dog in me. So hopefully someone can raise a little bit of bail money for him, and we will see him next time. But today, my friends, I am joined by my good friend, who also has an incredible name, Mr. Erick. How are you today, my friend?
What's going on, brother? How you doing, bro?
I'm doing good. You know, got a good beard, but I'm lacking some hair on the top. That's okay.
I'm trying to catch up to you, man, but it's not working, bro. I think I'm a couple of years back.
That's okay. You're faster than me. That's all that matters.
Well, thanks for having me, bro. I appreciate you being here, man. It's an honor.
Of course. So, for people who don't know you, please give us a quick little rundown. Aside from being a professional bodybuilder, what do you got going on?
Well, again, my name is Erick. Long story short, my background is in law enforcement. Recently retired, actually, about 2 years ago to pursue day trading full time. Self-employed owner as well too. But most importantly, man, I been competing since I was 30. I started a little bit later. Started off as a little bit of a power lifter, converted over to competing in men's physique. Did that a couple of years, and luckily became a pro in 2020. Yeah, it's been a while. Did that for a couple of years. Won a pro show. Actually, just competed this year. I'm sorry. But most importantly, kind of converted over to more of a hybrid training, I guess you could say. So I'm an avid runner, did my first marathon, did a couple of halves this year, and also proudly own a run club here in Loomis as well too. So it's been a pretty cool journey, man, so far. But dad of two, full-time dad, part-time bodybuilder, full-time cookie eater, and everything else. But just enjoying life, man. That's what it's all about.
Man, so when Josh and I started this podcast, when we decided that we were going to start having guests on, we had a rule that we had to both agree that we enjoyed the person that was going to come on, but two, the person had to have something of value, more than just, hey, you know, you look good naked, or hey, you make a bunch of money. What is something that you're contributing back to society? What gives this person value, and why do we think that they're interesting? Just your bodybuilding journey alone is so unique, and how it's transformed, and you really glazed over your pro win, because not only was it a good pro win, it was at a huge show.
Yeah.
So that
Yeah,
Legion show, that's a big deal. So kudos for that. I was there for that. That was
Thank you.
cool. I was
That was
glad
cool,
to be
man.
part of that.
Thank
But
you, bro.
let's go back. So I want to dig into some of the training stuff, and then I
Yeah.
want to sprinkle some fun life things in there. When you started getting into the powerlifting, how old were you?
Man, well, my journey started right after high school. I was a really scrawny little guy. I'm still a little guy, man. I'm A class, so it's I'm 5'6" on a good day, maybe shorter now that I'm older. But I really just started actually bodybuilding or just working out in general, like most people my age, like I said, I'm 42 now, I just turned 42, but it was the Arnold Encyclopedia, right? So it was train as heavy as you can, eat as many baked potatoes and tuna cans and everything else. And so I started like most people at that time. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all these different resources that most of the generation has now. It was, hey, go buy that encyclopedia, look through it, look at all the old school bodybuilders, learn from them. And during that time, it was just train it as heavy as you can, uh, and last as long as you can without getting hurt. So, and you know, that's how I started. I started my journey, and you know, it worked for me at the time because I was younger. And as most people who are young, you don't really think about the long term consequences of really training super heavy in a short amount of time. But eventually you end up getting hurt, right? And for me, it kind of, after a couple of injuries, my mid 20s, shoulder, tendonitis and all that stuff. I actually came across an old school bodybuilder at a gym who saw me working out and saw me training really heavy. He was like, "Hey, have you ever thought about competing?" I was like, "There's no chance I'm going to get up there on speedos." He goes, "No, man. There's a new category. You can do board shorts." Like he really talked me into taking a look at it, but really changed my mindset as far as competing or just lifting in general. Because I thought I looked great, but I was also kind of self conscious as far as when I took my shirt off because I was built like SpongeBob, right? I'm short but really wide and blocky, you know, and so big arms, really big arms. My back wasn't necessarily as big as I wanted it to be. My legs were pretty big at the time, but not where it was balanced or symmetrical, I should say. And he looked at me, he goes, there's a big difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting. He goes, powerlifting is all about power. He goes, you're going to be very strong. You're going to be able to do some crazy lifts. He goes, bodybuilding is more about the philosophy of finding balance. He goes, you may be genetically gifted by, having wide shoulders or broad shoulders, whatever it may be, or big chest naturally, or big calves, but you may be having deficiencies in your body that you're going to have to train harder and train more times throughout your week to really find that symmetrical balance. When he said that, it kind of stuck in my head. And I was like, you know what? Let me try this. I was like, obviously, I'm keep getting hurt. Every 3, 4 months, I got to take 4 weeks off or longer. Which, as you know, man, it's a psychological like hit in your mind, right? Because now you feel really bad because you're not working out, so you start falling off your diet, and you realize like, hey, all that hard work I just did for the last 2 years, now I got to wait for 2 months or 3 months to start training again, and it's just this vicious cycle, right? And he made me think, he's like, "Hey, are you in this for the long game or are you just doing it for like being strong in the short run? Like you got to understand like," and he was older. I think he was probably in his 50s at the time. He goes, I'm 50 plus something. He goes, and the reason I can still lift and look the way that I do is because I started training smarter. He goes, training smarter, not harder, right? He goes, so you got to understand, bodybuilding is a science. The more you understand the science behind bodybuilding, the more successful you're going to be at this. So yeah, that kind of just made me kind of convert from powerlifting and really doing like crazy squats and bench presses and curls and everything else. And he's like, you can get the same kind of reaction out of your muscles by doing 25s on the curls. It's about that mind muscle connection instead of you throwing your body all over the place. So it just really changed a lot of my philosophy. And granted, that was probably the best advice I could have got because that ultimately shifted me into the bodybuilding world. And after I went to my first show, man, I was hooked. I was like, dude, it's so cool just to see the science behind it. I mean, granted, you look great on stage, but I'm like, just knowing the science that goes behind even getting to that stage was really what was really intriguing for me because I never thought about it before. Before it was more dirty folks and hey, eat as much as you can and get as much mass and so you can lift heavier. But again, I didn't necessarily like the way that I looked. I was like a 36, I think, in my waist, and I'm only 5'5", 5'6", and 34. So it's like I wasn't built aesthetically like I wanted to. Once I started doing that, I'm like, holy smokes, dude! Like I weigh like 40 pounds less, but I look 2 times bigger, and everybody thinks I'm 220 when when I'm competing. I'm like, I'm not. So it was really cool. It was really interesting for me how that started. It was very like for most people, old school philosophy. But after a couple of injuries at a young age, I started realizing like I got to change something if I want to continue this. And for me, just like most people, right? You fall in love with bodybuilding and you realize that you have to do certain things after a while smarter instead of really being ego driven and saying, I bench all this crazy weight. For me, it was like more, hey, I don't want to get hurt. I want to stay healthy. I want to be able to, work out throughout the year and not worry about like, hey, when is that next injury coming and how serious is it gonna be and how's it going to affect me long term? And that really changed me, man. The trajectory as far as doing that, knock on wood, I haven't had any serious injuries since I started competing for that reason, because I've just been really smart about how I train, and not necessarily push my ego, even though sometimes I feel like I could do more. I'm like, hey, you know what? You're good. It's working for you. Be smart about it. And then once in a while, you'll turn up the level a little bit, but not to the point where it's setting you back and saying like, "Hey, man, like you're you're gonna get hurt." I'm not that 22-year-old guy anymore, so I got to be like, "Hey, these shoulders are popping a little bit more the last couple of years." So it just makes you take a step back and regress and look at it from a different perspective. And granted, for me, I was very fortunate to have some of those mentors who saw that potential in me and educated me on all the things that I was lacking because I thought I was doing everything right, which at the time was, but then they're like, hey, there's a smarter way of doing this, man. Like, and once that opened up my eyes, I was like, holy smokes, dude, like I enjoyed it more. I felt healthier. I can eat better. Just a lot of things in general that came as far as positives out of that.
I've noticed consistently that when people make the transition from powerlifting into bodybuilding, one, they thrive because
Mhm.
bodybuilding in comparison is like a park,
Yeah.
just a simple walk.
I hate to
You're
say
like,
it, but yeah,
you're like,
it's
I,
true.
I don't, I don't have to break my back to try and pull
Yeah.
heavy stuff off the ground. Like, this is great.
Yeah.
But it teaches you the importance of being effective and efficient with everything that
Mhm.
you do. And that life lesson truly just translate into everything else that you do. Because if you figure, okay, well, I can have this very efficient workout in 45 minutes and I don't need to be in the gym for 3 hours.
Mhm.
Oh my God. If I
Yeah.
can be efficient in everything, how much free time can I have to go do other things that I just want to do that I'm just not being busy?
Yep.
And you see the people all the time at the gym. I was at the gym for 3 hours. You were there,
Ow.
but were you doing anything?
Ow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's very true, man. And I think you nailed it right on the point. You realize efficiency is more important than amount, right? Because again, old school was like, hey, 3 hours in the gym and cardio and everything else. And when I first started, for me, when I first started, my first coach I ever had when I transitioned into bodybuilding was still very much of the philosophy of the old school. So it was almost like a transition, but not really in the beginning because it was like more of like, hey, you're gonna go really hardcore from day one, and I'm gonna have you eat a ton of food, and then I'm gonna starve you to death, kind of thing, right? Like I'm gonna
the
put
the
you
the overeating and then undereating. Yeah.
under eating, right? It was two extremes, dude. So it was like for me, like going from overeating and just looking sloppy while I kind of transitioning into bodybuilding. And again, you're brand new to it, right? So you're going off of what somebody's telling you at that point, and you're trusting that that coach has the best interest for you, right? Just like any coach. But then um, going from hardcore eating to, like you said, hardcore starving, because I think at one point I had, no joke, I had asparagus and tilapia and sweet potatoes for about 7 months, all the way through prep pretty much. And I'm like, holy smokes. And then doing 2 hours of cardio every day, and I'm like, man, this is like, and because again, I'm looking at videos from like Ronnie Coleman and Jay Cutler, and you see him on the treadmill and they're just drained, sweating, right, and towel over their head. So I'm like, this is just part of it. This is just part of the game. Um, and I did that for about 2 years, man. And then I think my last competition with this coach, which I think was SAC, I ended up getting mercury poisoning. just from the amount of tilapia I was eating, and that kind of scared the hell out of me because I'm like, dude, there's got to be a better way of doing this. And granted, during the time, that's when I started meeting my coach that I have now, and I see, and like I talked to a couple of these competitors. I'm like, they're like, nah, dude, I'm eating chicken, I'm eating steak, and like the week before, I'm like, what am I doing wrong, dude? I'm in the gym like 3 hours, like you said, right? I'm still in the gym 3 hours because I have to work out and I got to do fast and I got to come after work and do this. And I'm eating tilapia and I'm starving 20 minutes after I eat. I'm looking at the clock. When's the next 2.5 hours when I get to eat again?
Yo, my coach said I
Um,
could have 2 rice cakes. Yay.
yeah, yeah, dude. So, and I think that's where the burnout comes into with bodybuilding, right? That is where the stigma comes in with bodybuilding and is this like death trap. Um, and it's unfortunate because I think that there's some phenomenal coaches like yourself and other coaches that I've worked with, and it's like, no, you don't have to do it that way. There's a very smart way of doing it where you almost don't feel like you're dieting. And that's what I tell people, even when I coach them now. You should not feel like I'm giving you a diet. You should feel like I'm giving you a meal plan that you're already going to feel comfortable with and you're going to be able to enjoy with your family. Like if you're eating the food that I'm telling you to eat, it's probably going to be very similar, if not the same, to what your kids or your wife would enjoy. Um, so it's like you have to get out of that mindset. And for me, luckily, I was able to catch that at an early part of actually competing because I think the first 2 years I had no joke, man. I think did about 7 shows. And so I was like burnt, like a burnout. And I was like, man, is this, what's the point of doing this? Like I didn't see any improvement. I saw like actually like decline. But with bodybuilding, and I tell people, bodybuilding is not linear. It's not going to be, oh, it's like, hey, it's always going to be the same kind of thing. Like you're going to have different
Yeah,
phases in
you're
life.
not you're not gonna have the same rebound after every
No,
show, you
absolutely
know,
not.
and especially if you've got them planned, you're like, "Okay, I'm gonna do these 3 shows because they're all 4 weeks apart."
Yeah,
Everyone is gonna be different.
different.
You're gonna peak different, do you even deplete for this one? Maybe you just coast right in and you just
Yep.
flatline your food and your water because 'cause you're just stage ready. Oh,
Uh-huh.
man, there's just so many variables, and I think that's why people get addicted to bodybuilding
Yeah,
because you it's never the same. It's not supposed to be the same. If it's the
not
same, something went wrong.
absolutely 1000%. You nailed it right on, dude. And I think for me, that was the eye opener. And what I tell people is I competed. I think my first show I got fifth and like sixth, seventh, and I'm like, dude, I thought I looked great, but there was a lot of different things, obviously, that come with competing, posing, stage presence, how you peak, like you said. Like you may look great the week before or 4 days out, and then something goes haywire, whether it's your hormones or whether it's the food, your salt intake, either your carb loading or not, like you said, or because you're thinking you're going to approach it the same way you did the last show, but maybe you're already overly full and maybe you don't need that. Maybe you just need to cruise into the show and not make any changes. So that's for me, that's where that's where it's fascinating. The science, again, we talk about the science, right? To me, that's what I really enjoy because you see how many different components, but once you kind of figure it out, it's kind of fun because you realize, okay, here's where I'm going to start feeling like poop, or this is where, I'm probably going to look greatest 2 weeks out. And then the next 2 weeks, my mind is going to be really playing tricks on me, right? Where I'm flat and everybody's looking at you like, dude, you look crazy. And you're like, no, I'm flat. And
Yeah.
I, I feel
I
small and
only
like,
see 2 veins.
yeah,
Ugh.
right. And so like those pumps are great for 30 minutes and all of a sudden you just so it's cool though, because after years of doing it, you already know that's coming. So it's like, okay, I get it. And this is where I start feeling tired, or this is where I start feeling more fatigued. And so to me, that's what really makes bodybuilding and competing in general just fun. Like I said, I do it for fun. I don't do it because like, hey, I have to compete. Like, no, like the most success I've had in bodybuilding is actually when I've taken a year off in between shows. And that's how I actually ended up going pro. I took I think almost 2 years off to really make the improvements that I needed to. And, you probably tell your guys too, like, hey, some guys like, hey, you need to take some time to grow, or you need to take some time to really put on dense muscle to really make the difference. Like doing a bunch of shows is great and it's fun, but it's expensive. And it's like, are you really having the outcome that you want out of it? Or are you just doing it to say I competed 5 times in a year? And then you're going to feel like trash, and then you're going to rebound really hard because you starved yourself for the last, 6, 7 months, and now all of a sudden you're craving all this crazy food and you don't know how to control yourself. I think the last time when I got that mercury poisoning at SAC, I no joke, I think I put on 25 pounds in like 3 days.
Yeah,
And it was just the amount of water that I retained was just nasty, dude. And I was like, dude, this isn't right. Like there's gotta be a better way of doing this. So
probably
that's
got a
really what
mixture
made
of some
yeah, no,
rhabdo and some all kind of electrolyte imbalance.
everything was tore up, right? And so again, it's a reflection point. You say, okay, what needs to change? If I really want to do this long term and I really enjoy it, something's got to give. Whether it's my mindset, my work ethic, as far as what I'm putting in and after a show, like can I really have that self restraint and discipline to not give in to every single thing that's thrown in my face in the first 24 hours, but again, I think that's where it really comes back to having a balanced diet to where you're not really having those deficiencies as far as starving. Now I like when I compete, like I tell people, I cruise in a show. Like I may make like subtle changes with my coach for like the last 2 weeks, but other than that, I'm still eating steak. I'm eating chicken. I'm eating whole eggs. I'm not doing anything crazy to where I feel like I am deficient in anything that I'm craving, so it's cool. It's cool to see that. But yeah, I would tell you like it's been a journey, and it's fun because I still learn. And like you said, as you get older and things change, your different coaches, different mindsets, the industry changes as far as what you should be doing, not doing, and then I see all these crazy fads where like it's sugar fasting. I'm like, dude, like like I get it. What was it? A couple years ago, it was more of what I mean, keto was good for a while. I did keto too, and that worked for me. And I love keto. I think it works for a lot of people.
Mhm.
But then it went like converted from that to vegan. Like you see a lot of bodybuilders that were doing vegan for like a couple of weeks. I'm like, and now the new trend was sugar fasting. I'm like, do you really have to go through all these extremes if you're doing everything appropriately to where you're not having to do all this crazy stuff? And like there's different positives that come out of this stuff, but for most people, that's not gonna work. And then most people end up crashing really hard in metabolism, and that's where all these crazy complications come. Um, but yeah, to me, it's fascinating to see how trends change, but the people who are consistent and are successful in bodybuilder are the ones that aren't making all these crazy extreme changes as they go through their career. They're just making minor adjustments, gathering data with every show they do and say, okay, I identified that maybe I peaked a little bit early here by doing this, or and that's where like we were just talking about, that's where the science comes behind that, and that's what makes it fun because you realize those are the people that have longevity in bodybuilding, and the ones that do these crazy stuff, they're one and done, dude. Like they either turn pro and then you never hear from them again, or they do a bunch of local shows and then they eventually get burnt out and then have this stigma about bodybuilding and how toxic it is and everything else. But I think, like I tell people, it is what you give into it. For me, I enjoy meeting people. I've always loved that I get to meet like-minded people because I think it's a different mindset with bodybuilding. And yeah, you have those outliers, but for the most part, man, I made some great friendships, and that's how I met you. And just from doing it. So it's like there's a lot of good positives that come out of this whole bodybuilding world if you approach it correctly with the right mindset. And that's what I always tell people. If you don't have the right mindset, if you're just going in there because you think you're going to be crazy rich and the next Jeremy Buendia and Ronnie Coleman, I'm like, dude, you got to realize, man, like these guys really like committed themselves like 1,000%. And that's to have that mindset and like, hey, anything's possible. But I would also tell you that those guys never made excuses. They never said, I can't eat this meal. They never questioned their coach. They were fully devoted to what they were going to accomplish, and that's how they did it. And most people are unfortunately just not built that way. And that's just the reality of it. Life happens, right? Like your life situation may be very different than theirs was. And so you can't compare yourself and say, I'm doing to do this. I'm like, well, you haven't even turned pro, let alone won a local show. So steps, right? building blocks. Like get those little wins, get that little win first, win the local show, win the overall, work your way to nationals. Nationals is a whole different level, right? And the same thing with the pro level. Like a lot of guys think that they win locally, they do these local shows that all of a sudden they're going to be really successful at the pro level. I was like, nah, dude, it's starting from the bottom of the barrel again. And you realize like all these dudes are dogs and they all want it just as much as you do. So it's a gradual step. It's understanding again, like we talked about, it's not linear. You're going to have ups and downs, and sometimes it's great, and sometimes you feel like, hey, I look great and phenomenal, and then you do the next show, and you're like, dude, I feel terrible. I didn't show up, and I placed, out of the top 10, and what happened? And it's like, okay, well, just take a step back, realize what happened, what exactly was it that caused it. It wasn't because you looked different or because somehow something changed. Something in between there made you kind of fall off, whether it's life, sleeping, your diet, or stress, or
The stress,
overconfidence.
it gets everybody. It's crazy. And how, you could be so dialed in and you're like, okay, we did our test load 2 weeks out, and we've got
Yeah.
all the notes, everything's perfect. And then all of a sudden the stress comes in and
Yep.
everything just falls apart in front of your eyes. And you're just like, yeah, at that point, it's too late. The
Yeah.
body just completely crashed. And you're like, I cannot physically, from a coaching standpoint, I cannot give
Yeah.
you enough food from the 5 a.m. pictures that you just sent me to you have to step on stage at 8:30 in the
Yeah.
morning. There's just no way. Like, I can work some magic, but I'm not
Yeah.
that good.
Right. And I think another thing that's really important too, and this is probably something we haven't talked about, is um, really having a good circle of influence around you, man. I think for anybody who competes, especially people who are new to competing, you're probably going to look the greatest out of all your friends, right? All of a sudden, you're going to look crazy. You're going to have this. You're going to look the best you've ever looked in your life. People are going to gas you up like no other, and unfortunately for a lot of people, it gets in their head. You got to understand that you have to take criticism. It's part of the game. If somebody's telling you all the time, you look great, and you look incredible, you're going to win, you're going to win, you're going to win. And it's like you never stepped on stage, the percentages of that likelihood happening are very low. But if you go in it and saying, hey, I'm in the greatest shape of my life, I've never looked this great, I'm blessed enough to even be on the stage, I have a great coach behind me, I'm learning so much throughout this process, your mindset going into that actual show is very different than the people that, like you said, so stressed, and all of a sudden they get demoralized like crazy because everybody's been telling them you look like Superman and Hulk and one kind of thing, right? And all of a sudden you step on stage and you play seventh, and you're like, what happened? And what happened is you got overly confident and you really didn't take a step back and say, hey, look at the grand scheme of things. Like, yes, this is my first show. I'm stepping on stage. I've never looked this great. I understand that now I can look phenomenal, and you improve from that point on. And that's where it really comes down to, right? Because it's like you said, bodybuilding is subjective. You may go on one show in front of one judge that says, "Hey, you're the next Jeremy Buendia," and then you go to the next show and it's another judge and like, "Hey, you need to work on your back. Your chest is too small, or your legs are too small, whatever it may be." And some people just can't handle that, and they get pissed and they say, well, it's politics and everything else. It's like, dude, it's a subjective game. Like, you just got to take it with a grain of salt, put things in perspective. You made it to that stage. That's already less than 1% of the world. Like, give yourself some kudos and realize, like, hey, you just got to work a little bit harder, make those improvements, and who knows, maybe next time it's going to be your time. There's 70 something guys, and give or take, in every show that you're going to do. Like, that's a lot of guys, dude, to win a show or even place top 2 or 3. Like, give yourself some grace and realize, like, hey, I can improve, but at least I'm in that percentage where it's like, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And I would say, like, if you're doing a show and you got 70 guys in your class, you know,
Yeah.
the judges get such a small time frame to look at you, make little mental notes. And if you figure, hey, if there's 70 guys and I made it into the first call outs,
Yeah.
that means I'm truly in that opportunity where you could have just swapped the top five
Yeah.
around and anyone would have been happy.
Yep. Thousand
So
percent.
So you're doing great, but going back to what you said about having a good group of people around you, having a good coach that's going to be honest with you, just like with anything, especially with business, you never want to be the smartest person in the room.
No, no.
You got to find, okay, if you're top dog in your group, you need to go find a new group.
Yeah.
But making sure that your coach, and not everyone wants to learn, but I definitely encourage people, hey, if you're working with a coach, whether it be me or whether it be someone else,
Hmm.
ask, get the
Yep.
answers, because so many people just memorize things and people don't actually learn. And when
Yeah.
people really understand what that means, they're just like, well, I just regurgitated what that guy said. Yeah, but
Yeah.
can you comprehend it?
Right.
They're like, well, it sounded good. I'm like, cool. So does upping the trend. Like, it doesn't mean that that's the right answer,
Yeah, exactly. And,
but
funny story with that, just real quick. So when I had that first coach, and after like 2 years, like I said, I was pretty much burnt out. I think I stopped competing or even like really dieting for like 6 months until I looked like Jabba. And at that point, I was like, dude, something's got to change, right? Like I went from one extreme to the other. Um, and I actually, at that time, I reached out to Omar Ventura.
yeah,
And, Omar was a top dog at the time. Like Omar was killing it. He was a local guy. So I was like, cool. I can reach out to him. I want to have a local coach, someone that I can kind of sit through and pick their brain. And I remember to this point, like I reached out to Omar. He's like, hey, yeah, send me your info, send me some pictures. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about switching over to classic physique. And I sent him my pictures. He goes, you're not doing classic physique, dude. You're not anywhere close to being competitive in classic physique. And I remember at the time I was still dating my wife, and I showed it to her. She started laughing. She goes, "He's absolutely right." He's like, "That's the kind of coach you need." And I was like, "He's right." He's like, and he told me, he's like, "Hey, you're gonna have to take about a year. Are you good with taking a year and to build you up to where I need you to be competitive in men's physique if you want to get to that competitive level to do nationals?" I'd already done, I think, 2 national shows. First national show I did was Pittsburgh, and I was like, I was so confident that I was gonna place top 2. And I got absolutely smoked. And I remember after that, I was like, dude, like, this is way different.
it's a different world,
It
man.
was a different world, man. And it really humbled me. And I was like, well, you know what? It's Pittsburgh. It's one of the biggest shows. Maybe if I do a different show, I have better results. And then I did Miami. I think, I don't know if it was the same year or maybe the next year with my first coach. I did Miami and
What
obliterated.
when they
Like,
had nationals out there?
yeah, and I had never been on stage with that many. I think there was probably about 50 guys in my class, and I didn't even crack the top 25, I think. I was like 4th call outs, and I thought I was like, "Oh, this is it. I'm dialed in. I look great." And I just see these guys are monsters, and I'm like, their posing was just like, I'm like, "Dude, I'm
Flawless.
barely."
Yeah.
I'm like, "I don't even know how to turn to my back and let alone, flare my lats out yet." Um, but yeah, it was after that, and like I reached out to Omar. I'm like, hey, dude, like I'm trying to get back into competing. And he was like, dude, if you want to work with me, give me a year. And, I think I can get you there in a year if you follow my plan and everything else. And he was absolutely right, man. I took a year off, just really followed his plan, built my deficiencies where I needed to. And that's when I ended up doing Tahoe show. And I think I ended up winning I think that was my first overall, actually. That was the first show I did with Omar. Um, what was it, the first show? It might have been the first or second. I think we did a warm up in SoCal, and I got second. No, it was. I did my first show was SoCal. I think it was one of border shows. That was my first experience doing a show out of like this region and doing like local, which is Southern California. And I looked great, but my posing sucked. And so I remember specifically the judges put me dead center and I held it there. And then it wasn't until we turned our back and I started getting squeezed in by everybody else. And then my lats went from like this to this. And I remember seeing the video after, I was like, that's why they moved me out. And I ended up placing me in third. Um, so then you realize, like, right, there's more to this than just looking great. You have to really hammer your posing, your stage presence, figuring out like if you are getting squeezed, how do you fix that, right? While you're on stage, you only have, like you said, a few seconds, right? So you got to figure something out, and the judges are only going to look up at like once or twice, and at that point, if your lats are like this, I'm sorry, dude. Like maybe next time. But I learned from that show, and then that when we did Tahoe, we absolutely killed it. Like posing was on point. We came in. I think I had my son would just had been born like 6 weeks before that. Um, and we ended up winning the overall. And I was like, okay, now you're starting to see how everything has its place and why it's so important to really make sure you're hammering and checking off those three boxes, right? It's not just about looking great. It's about peaking right. It's about posing correctly, having stage presence, listening to your coach. You may not get that cheat meal burger right before you get on stage and deal with it, right? You want to win or you want to have a cheat meal right before you get on stage? What's more important? So just again, it's that learning curve and having the right coach in your corner, like you talked about, somebody who's going to be brutally honest with you. Even after I stopped working with Omar and I actually got with Ariel, which has been like 4 or 5 years. Actually, it's been longer than that. I think it's been 6 years. Again, different philosophy, different diet, different way of peaking. And it's just the more that you do it, the right people you start finding that fit your lifestyle. Like he understands I'm a dad. He understands that at the time I was in law enforcement working 16 hours behind, some walls where I can't leave. Like, hey, I have to pack all my meals. So what do I eat? And he's like, okay, this is what you got to do. You're still gonna have to work out and doing all that stuff. So it's really cool to see how you figure these things out over time. But most people think that they're gonna figure out their first show. And it's unfortunate because I've seen some really great looking guys that I've met throughout the years, and then you don't ever hear from them again. They disappear to the wind, and it's like, dude, you had a lot of potential, but at some point, either something mentally broke or you just realized you were going too hard too quick and you thought it was going to be handed to you just because all your friends say you look great and whatever it is. But the reality is, like you said, it's bodybuilding, man. Everybody's going to look great. You show up and hey, everybody looks good, just good or not better than I do. It's the reality of the game.
Yeah. And I think a lot of those people, the ones that you're like, oh man, like that guy, he
Yeah,
could really be it. Those guys can't get out of their own way.
that's it.
And they're like,
That's it,
oh,
man.
I know everything because I saw a podcast, or I
Yeah.
heard that so and so got X, Y, and Z drug protocol from Milos, and that's the way to do it. Dude, I have a buddy. I don't even want to call him a buddy. I have an acquaintance. We'll call him an acquaintance. A buddy's too much. He has looked the exact same for 10 years.
Yeah.
And he takes more gear by himself than half of my team combined.
That's
And I
crazy.
coach a shitload of people.
Yeah.
And he'll tell me, like, dude, he sent me pictures one time. He was like, hey, what do you think about this? And I was like, it's too much. And he's asking my honest opinion. I give him my honest
Right.
opinion, and then he's mad about it. He
Yeah.
was like, well, I'm taking 18 IUs of growth a day.
Holy
Why?
smokes, dude.
He was like, well, I'm doing 1,500 milligrams of test. And he gives me this laundry list of drugs. I'm like, why?
He's on
What
the
for what point?
piano protocol. Yeah.
And I was
Dude.
just like, you never peak correctly. You never
Yeah.
actually get in true contest shape. You're never lean. You always have soggy glutes. I'm like, you're missing the point that you have gone too far and now your body is fighting you. And
Yeah.
that people are not understanding just with nutrition alone. They're not
Yeah.
understanding the micronutrition. And then, you've got all these other things that are happening. You do one thing, but it's snowballing to other things.
Yeah.
And it's just like, dude, like, you think you're doing this amazing, I'm going to be the next, Jay Cutler and the
Yeah.
world's going to bow to me. And they're like, dude, you look like you do CrossFit 2 times a week. What are you
Yeah.
doing?
Yeah, and that's funny you say that because anybody always comes up to the gym like, hey, how much are you taking or what are you taking right now? And then I tell them like, hey, my protocol is like basically TRT. Like I'm only taking like 150 a week. My blood work is good, like everything. And they're like, there's no way, like you're taking way more stuff. And I'm like, again, those are things that you realize really early who the good coaches are and the bad ones are. Because bad coaches are going to tell you take a ton of shit and it's going to make you better.
And stay on it
But
forever.
yeah, and then all of a sudden you're just wrecked, dude. Like you're having all these deficiencies, your body's breaking down. Like I've realized, especially after turning pro, less is more, dude. Like you don't need that much. You really don't. Your body does. There's a point where it's just a waste of money, and it's like unless you're like you said, Jay Cutler or Ronnie Coleman, like these dudes are already at the very, very top of that level. For most guys who compete, especially at the local level, most of them don't even need to take anything, let alone take this crazy amount where it's like, how much are you spending on this stuff? And it's like, dude, I don't even know how you guys afford it. And that's the thing is like, and then you start getting into those dudes like, hey, how do you afford it? And they're like, well, I sell my boxers online to these dudes who buy them for $300 that are used when I work at a gym. Like, something in your life needs to change, dude. Like, are you not realizing, like, what are you doing to get to this extreme? But you're absolutely right, man. You don't, that is the biggest misconception in bodybuilding, that more is better. It's so far from the truth. And again, you got to ask yourself, are you in this for the long run? Or are you just doing this to try to accelerate what you think is going to be the path to get to the top, right? You think you're going to do this. Bodybuilding is telling you you're going to do this. And at some point you'll have success, and at some point you might not. So is it more important to just jump on whatever and everything that you think is popular because some YouTube guy told you to take all this crazy stuff, or you see this 19-year-old that's taking some insane amount of gear that is just going to completely wreck them by the time they're 22, 23? And how many times have you seen that, right? You see all these guys that are influencers, and you hear 2 years later down the road where they're having all these health issues, or you're like, dude, you look like you're 45 and you're 22. Like, something's off. And that's, it's unfortunate because those are the type of people that give the stigmatism to bodybuilding, instead of finding the right people that are really science based and telling you like, hey, dude, like, you don't need all that stuff. Like, you do all this stuff, like, you will depend very little on that stuff if you even need it. Because some guys are like, hey, naturally your hormone levels, or test levels are really high. You don't really need that much. And maybe it's very different from for somebody who is coming from maybe being obese, who, their hormone levels are really low and they need the help to kind of get back to that normal level. But again, everybody's different. And like to your point, if you're coaching 25 guys, they're all going to be different. If you're getting the same cookie cutter diet that those 25 guys are, then that coach is doing absolutely a disservice to you, because there is no box where it's like, okay, you're going to fit in this box. Everybody's different. Everybody's stress level is different. Everybody's cortisol level is different. Everybody's blood pressure is different. But then again, to your point, that's why it's important to have somebody who's going to say, hey, before we even start, I need to get your blood work. I need to see where you're at. I need to see what kind of lifestyle you live. Are you smoking? Are you drinking? Are you partying every weekend? All that stuff are so critical to being successful in bodybuilding, and just in life in general, right? Like, a real coach will tell you like, hey, dude, you got to stop living that lifestyle. You got to stop eating like trash.
You got to
You
set yourself up for success.
Yeah, you can't think like, hey, I look great and I work out really hard, Monday to Friday, and then all of a sudden I'm going to go eat McDonald's throughout the weekend, kind of thing. Like, you have to have self-discipline. I think that's where a lot of people lack in this industry, is the discipline part of it, which is what we talked about earlier. It's Nobody's going to hold you accountable. It's you. At the end of the day, if you don't want to go to the gym, nobody's going to know. I mean, you can fake it. You can show up at the parking lot like some people do and hang out in the car and go inside and, shoot the shit with a couple of guys and then do a couple ab exercises and leave. Nobody's going to know. Nobody's going to know. But when it comes to that day when you're
Oh,
stepping
they
on
will know
stage,
because it will show in the lack of
uh,
progress.
exactly. So when you show up on stage and then all of a sudden you want to blame everybody under the sun and say, we didn't have the outcome that we liked, and da da da, and give the sob stories. Like, dude, just hold yourself accountable. Like, hey, I just didn't show up today. That's just that. Or
You
you know what?
you
Hey,
gotta
I
accept
I I
accept your
I
loss.
yeah, I looked my best, but it wasn't enough to win today because there was other dogs that just wanted a little bit more, that suffered a little bit more. It's just the reality of the game, dude. It's just life. It's just like
Yep.
anything else, like you said, it's like just like business.
We got great data. We know what we need to
Yep.
fix. We have a game plan, and we're going to
Yep.
come back better.
That's it. That's all you
But
can
I,
do.
I wanted to go back. So when you were working law enforcement, you're working a real job. It's not like
Yeah.
people that are competing. They're like, oh, I'm a personal trainer, so I can just eat whenever I want and kind of build my schedule around my workouts.
Yeah.
Finding that balance, and even if you were just by yourself and single, it still
Yeah.
requires a lot of balance.
It did.
But you're a
It did.
family man. You're
Mhm.
married. You got kid. You had one kid at the time. Now you have two kids.
Yeah.
What what did you have to figure out to find the balance? Like, where was your structure that you're like, okay, I want to be career driven, but I
Mhm.
also want to be good on stage, but I still have to find time so I'm not an absentee husband?
Right. Luckily for me, when I first started competing, I was newly divorced. So I had
All the
that
motivation.
all the motivation in the world, right? Like most guys, right? Like, hey, I want to get in the greatest shape of my life. And granted, again, when I was married at the time, I was still working out, still lifting heavy, but I didn't look aesthetically like I thought I could, right? So it was actually once I was in the department, funny enough, I remember I worked in a specific unit at the time, and there was an old school guard at the time, and this dude was just a monster. He was just like Ronnie Coleman size, like he was just a dog, but everybody respected him, right? And I remember I worked with him one day, and he saw me kind of eating my meals, and he's like, "Hey, he's like, you compete?" I'm like, "No, I don't compete. I'm just trying to, stay healthy and everything else." And that he was the one that kind of was like, "Hey, you should think about it. Like, I think you'd be really good at it if you have the discipline to do it at work. Like, I think you would really enjoy it. Plus, it gives you an outlet away from all the stress that you can have with work." And that was kind of like a couple times we worked together. And shout out to him, Tony Leith. His name's Leith. I think he was Mr. California at one point. Um, I mean, this dude was, I think he was probably in his 50s at the time, but he looked like he was 30. Like he was just monster. Like I said, I was like, dude, I want to look like you. And he was like, dude, just look into it, man. Like you're already doing all the hard stuff. Like the diet is going to be the hardest part. If you can get that dialed in, he's like, I guarantee you, you're already working out hard enough to be competitive. Um, so that's kind of where that drive came from. And then um, finding the balance, because again, with my job at the time, there wasn't any fixed schedule. Like you were assigned 8-hour shifts, but because I was at the bottom of the barrel, right? I'm the fish. So I'm like, hey, if somebody's got to stay overtime, that's you. You're the first one up. So understanding that every day was different at the same time, being prepared for it really made me identify, like, do I want it bad enough to where I'm packing 6 meals or 8 meals to, get ready for a 16-hour day, and I was also commuting an hour and a half. So most of my days when I was working doubles was probably like a 20-hour day. So I was literally coming home, um, going to the gym either before work, like really early in the morning, like at 3:30, 4 in the morning, or sometimes I'd have to do both. I'd have to do fasted and then go to work, and then after work, get to the gym right around midnight because I'd get off around 9. So I'd come home or eat or go straight to the gym and then get home like at midnight, get up at 4 in the morning, commute back to work. Doing that for about a year and a half made me realize, okay, if I work this hard already, once my schedule started getting a little bit more normal, it made it that much easier for me, to be honest with you. It just so by the time I met my wife, I already had the discipline of knowing, okay, this is what I need to do, and she already understood it. And I think that's another critical thing that maybe I think a lot of people don't talk about is the impact that it has on your personal life. To your point, right? You gotta, people tell you, well, there's no balance in bodybuilding. Bullshit, dude. If you want to find balance, you can find it hard enough, and you also have to have the right partner that understands what you're doing is not going to be forever. And I think for me, I really lucked out because I met my wife at a bodybuilding show, so she already knew kind of what that lifestyle was. So the transition from going single to not really having those responsibilities to all of a sudden being married and now with kids is okay. Is it important for you to compete 5 times a year? Or are you okay with competing maybe once or twice a year, but doing it really good? And for me, I was okay with that. I was like, "Hey, you know what? My marriage is more important. My kid's life is more important. Not missing out on certain things is more important." Um, and ultimately, like I said, I was a dad when I turned pro, and I had the most success on stage being a dad. It wasn't when I was single, oddly enough, right? Because I realized that there was competing more, and that doesn't necessarily mean more success. And really finding that balance of keeping your spouse happy, keeping your kids happy, being in their life, being okay with like, hey, if I'm gonna pack my meal, I'm not gonna have these emotional swings when everybody's eating pizza in front of me or my kids are eating whatever, it's like, you're like, hey, you know what? I got 4 more weeks until I can eat that stuff. I'm okay with it. Like, let them enjoy it. Um, and I think after a while of competing, I actually, oddly enough, found more enjoyment out of seeing people eat good when I was on prep. So I was like, hey man, I can't eat it, but let's take you guys out to ice cream kind of thing. And seeing that satisfaction in my kids and everything else, I think made it like not really a big deal. But it took years, man. I tell people it takes years, man. Your first couple preps are gonna suck because you're not used to doing that, being that disciplined. And I think it probably took me about 2 years to where I was just okay being around people, eating whatever it was, and I didn't feel like I was missing out. And you realize, okay, I can go to a restaurant, I can get asparagus, I can get, grilled chicken, I can get rice. Like you don't have to like, hey, bring my Tupperware to where I go kind of thing. You just ask the right questions. How many ounces is this chicken that you guys serve? 5 ounces. Perfect. So I know I can eat that, right? Is it steamed or grilled asparagus? Can you make sure they don't put oil on it or whatever it is? So you don't have to go to this hardcore extreme where you're in this bunker for 6 months out of the year and not seeing daylight. Like you can live a normal life, enjoy the things that you do, and find that balance, man. It's again, it's something that I think that's taboo, I guess, where it's like, hey, no, you gotta give 1,000% and do this. Like, yeah, you do, you give 1,000%, but you can also be a nice person throughout your prep. You don't have to be this hardcore grunge person where nobody can talk to you. Like, no, dude, like I don't understand. I
That's
never
that's
understood it.
old school mentality. But
It
like
is, dude.
we know that you can still give the 1,000%, but we talked about this, the difference between being busy and efficient.
Right.
If you do your meal prep and you have, 2, 3 days worth of food, great.
Mhm.
You were very efficient at that. Now you have no excuse for not having your food ready to go and like, oh, well, I didn't have it. So I went and I got Chipotle instead and I got 3 weeks worth of sodium out of it.
Yeah.
You know, Setting yourself up for success and then being present in those moments. Like, I
Uh-huh.
know I work a lot, and because I work from my phone, it definitely causes me to be distracted at
Right.
times.
Yeah.
So I tell my oldest daughter, I'm like, if you need to tell me something that's, of importance, like you want to tell me about your day or something like that, just say,
Mhm.
Dad, I want to talk to you. And I will put the phone down because I want to be present for those moments. Like
1,000%.
money will come and go, but you're
Mhm.
never going to get the opportunity to make memories again.
You nailed it, dude. And I think that's and I've even told that to competitors, right? I think you've probably seen some of my stories when I like first started. I always tell people like, hey, if this is your first show at competing, savor the moment, man. Like look around the crowd, like see your family, your kids there. Like you're a superhero, regardless of the outcome, dude. You're super dad, you
Yep.
know? And to have the support system, to have people that are there cheering you on, that for you to be that inspiration. It's cool because with me when I was in corrections, like I said, I was surrounded by inmates all day. And I can honestly tell you that I never had an issue to where I felt like I'm like, oh my God, like I'm in this situation where I'm scared or, I can't talk to these guys. Most of the conversations that I ever had intellectually was with inmates because they were so intrigued seeing me, right? Like seeing the transition of me kind of going from bulk to like shredded. They're like, dude, how do you like you got all these crazy veins and like how do you get to that point? So the conversations were more about like diet, like how do I do while I'm still incarcerated kind of thing. And I'm like, oh, you can buy this and get that and try this workout, you can do calisthenics and all this other stuff. So it was more of like a cool like opening that bodybuilding did for me. And that was also with staff. Like I work with a lot of officers like, man, how do you do it, man? You're coming in here, you're eating your stuff, and like I tell them, like, hey, man, like if you don't have to just eat like trash just because you're stuck in these walls 16 hours a day, and you got to find that balance, and a lot of my clients still are like law enforcement because it is hard to find that balance, right? And it's like, hey, what's more important to you? Is it that overtime check, or like you said, is it your family? Like, it's cool to have all these toys and have all this other stuff, but if your health is terrible, dude, like if you're off 4 days a week and you're sleeping two of those because you're so exhausted physically and you don't have the energy or desire to do anything with your kids, something's got to change, man. Because like you said, man, kids grow up really quick. And at some point, if you're not a part of their life, they're not going to want to be a part of your life when they get older. Like you miss that window. So really having that important balance, even in bodybuilding, like I said, like finding that balance. Is it really that important to do these 3 shows a year, or is it like, hey, I can pick one and just bust my ass, and then the last, other 2 months or 3 months that I would have been doing the show, spending with my kids, and still be disciplined enough to eat great, but not worry about eating a burger or having fries with your kids. Like, to me, that's just more important. I think that once I understood that, it made my marriage better. It made my understanding as far as, is this career more important to me, or is it more important for me to stick around and be healthy when I'm 65, 70, to see my grandkids and see my kids grow up and not miss those pivotal points, like you said. And it's insane to me. Like I said, I don't know how some people compete and miss birthdays for their kids or all that stuff like that. It's not that important, bro. And I remember when I first turned pro, my son's birthday was, I think it was like a couple of days. No, it was my wife's birthday. I'm sorry. It was like 2 days after. And I remember after I turned pro with Pittsburgh, the pro show's the day after, right? So like, hey, you should do the pro show. You look great. Like, I think you do really good. It's perfect opportunity for you to get on stage and the same judges, la da da. And as much as I'm like, oh, it'd be cool, yeah, right. And you're going from turning pro to doing a pro show the next day. I remember telling like some of the judges backstage, I'm like, you know what? It's my wife's birthday, dude. Like, I'm okay. I can do it later on. It's not a big
Yep.
deal. But some guys wouldn't have that discipline, right? Some guys be like, yeah, I got to get on. And then like, hey, I'm not going to fly out tomorrow. I'm going to compete. And so again, to your point, is finding what's most important to you, realizing that shows are always going to be there. Shows don't change. Um, if you want it bad enough, you'll understand that this is the long game. But having your children, having your wife or whoever it is, family members, and sharing those pivotal moments that you may never get back is to me is more important. And I think that that's also made bodybuilding more enjoyable, because when I do, I have them around.
Yeah.
I've had my wife around, even this last show. It was cool to be able to share those moments. And if it made it just all about me all the time, I think that at some point those people would get burnt out and say, hey, dude, like, you're being selfish. And at some point, something's going to give. So yeah, it's unfortunate some guys don't figure that out, unfortunately, in this game. And for those that do, those are usually the ones that I have the most uh, conversation with in relationship as far as pros, because we have the same philosophy, right? We're dads first and bodybuilder second and pro second. It's not bodybuilding, pro, everything, and then family. It's your family.
Yeah.
For me, it's
Family.
my
And it's
faith,
it's
everything
your
else.
it's your me time. And I always tell people, I'm like,
Yeah.
because I deal with a lot of people that have, big corporate jobs or, high
Mhm.
stress jobs that come home with them. Like,
Yep.
okay, I can easily manipulate the diet. I can easily do your workouts, give you the cardio, give you the
Yep.
protocol, yada yada yada. I want to work on something that's going to be long-term sustainable, and I want to help you with mental health, but
Yep.
not mental health in the aspect of like, oh, you need a SSRI. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I'll give you an example that people can understand a little bit better. If you go into a doctor and the doctor says you have osteoporosis,
Yeah.
most, if not all, Western medicine doctors will tell you, I want you to take calcium.
Yep. There's this.
No one digs under the surface level to figure out why do you have a calcium deficiency.
Mhm.
Because if you take calcium supplements, calcium also blocks the absorption of a lot of other key nutrition. So if you figure out, okay, well, if I take something that's going to prevent my body from properly absorbing other things, is
Mhm.
that going to snowball negativity? More than likely it will. So
Right.
why don't you dig under and figure out what's causing the deficiency? Do you need vitamin K2 and D3? Is it something that simple? You just need to make it more efficient. People that
Right.
have anemia, they're like, oh my God, like I need iron. Do you, or does your body just need to be more effective and you need to increase your vitamin C while you're eating animal-based products to
Yeah.
help absorb the iron better? So there's
Yeah.
all sorts of things with that. So when we talk about stress management and things like that, on the surface, it seems so simple. Be like, well, just be a hippie and just turn your brain off. They're like, oh my God, like how easy, like what, wouldn't that be great, coach? I'm like, honestly, it's easier than it sounds,
Yeah.
but you have to get out of your own way. And I get it. You've got your dream job. Like, oh
Mhm.
my God, like I went to school, I got my degree, I've got this great paying job, but it's literally killing me on the inside. My stress levels are so out of control that now my key organs are not functioning correctly.
1000%.
My glucose is out of control because my liver is not doing its job. The pancreas is not doing its job. It's not producing insulin, or it's producing too much insulin. People that have PCOS.
Yeah.
Now you have all sorts of, oh my God, coach, my fingers, they just hurt all the time because they're just so inflamed and I'm holding on water retention. And now I'm dealing with, bouts of lightheadedness. I have type 3 diabetes, which is inflammation of the brain.
Yeah.
All things that can be resolved if you eliminate the stress. What is causing your stress? Is it a work thing? Because if you're working 16, 20-hour days to make this amazing amount of money, you're literally living to make a living, and you're not actually enjoying life. And at what point is it going to catch up to you? And you're going to be, like those cartoons and the old guy who was like, oh, I regret so much. I wish I had done X, Y, and Z. I don't want to be that guy.
Oh,
I
no.
want to be there. I want to be present. I want to make the memories. There's one thing that happened, and I tell my oldest, and I'm like, it drives me up the wall because it's one bit of parenting that I truly look forward to, and it was robbed. I told my kid when we lived at our last house, I was like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to ride a bike with no training wheels.
Yeah.
And she was like, I already know how. Like, wait, what are you talking about? No, you don't know how. She goes, yeah, the neighborhood kids taught me how to ride a bike with no training wheels.
Yeah.
And I looked at my wife and she was like, they did. And I'm like, there's no way. Show me. It was all wobbly and shit. It wasn't good, but she did. And that one core dad memory that I really wanted was robbed.
Yeah.
And because I had a real job at the time and it sucked. And I was like, I missed that. And so now I got the new baby who's 3 months old. I'm like, no one's teaching this kid to ride a bike but me. It's my time.
It's true, but you learned, right? You
Yeah.
took an assessment of your own life and realized, okay, based off of my childhood, my memories, now what my kid's telling me, somewhere in between, there's a gap or deficiency, like something happened, right? And to your point is exactly right. You think that, I hate to say it, but we're raised to think that, hey, the dream job is what you're gonna really strive for in your life, right? You go to college, you get this career, start making good money, and all of a sudden it's like your life is gonna get 1,000 times better, right? And some jobs are like that. Some careers give you the flexibility and leniency depending on where you're at and what you do. But for the most middle class or most people in general, eventually you start realizing as you get deeper into that, right? As you get higher in the corporate chain, I would say that there's more politics, more things that are causing you stress, not only in your personal life, but also in your health, right? Your cortisol starts getting messed up. Your blood pressures are getting messed up. Your desire to do things after you get off of work get messed up because most people want to come home and have a glass of wine and watch Netflix and right? All these things that you hear about all the time, which is great. Once in a while, I don't have any issue with it. But unfortunately, we are programmed to think that that is success. And I think for some people, you have to have a reflection point where the success for me now is being a great dad. It's not bodybuilding. It wasn't my career. And like we talked about earlier offline, right? For me, having gone through that stressful situation in my career as a lieutenant, I mean, I wasn't an officer anymore. I thought I was having that level up, right? I'm like, hey, I'm moving up the corporate ladder, and at some point, I'm going to be a warden or whatever it is, director of the department. But it sucked, dude, because I wasn't happy, and I didn't see it. But I remember even my own family members telling me, like, hey, you're not the same person anymore. I used to laugh all the time, joke, and now I'm very serious, stressed out. Like anything will trigger me. And I remember talking to guys I used to work with, and I always hear these stories like, yeah, when you go into a restaurant, you don't face the wall, you got to face. I'm like, dude, I don't want to live like that, and I never did. And I remember running into people that were incarcerated out in the street that I used to see, and I never had a negative experience because I never treated them bad. But it was interesting for me when I turned 39. And then this was the last time that I competed, previous to this year, but the last time I competed as a pro when I won my overall. getting my blood work done, as we talked about. And I was just so shocked to see how bad my cortisol was, my blood pressure. And I'm like, dude, I've done everything right in my 30s. Like, I thought through my 30s, I was dialed. Like, I was, exercise, diet, nutrition, being healthy, and everything else. But I didn't realize how impactful my career was and my job was on me until I got that blood work, and it scared the shit out of me. It really did. It really put my life in perspective, because I'm like, okay, I know that this career field has usually a life expectancy of like 3 years after you retire. But I was like, I'm gonna defy that, right? These are all these dudes that don't do everything right and drink and smoke and all this other stuff. And I'm like, dude, I don't do any of that. I don't drink. Like, I maybe have a beer once a year, and I drink half of it because it gives me reflux. So it's like, what am I doing? Like, what am I have done wrong to have all this crazy stress and alopecia starting to happen and everything else? I'm like, well, I never had any of that. And it was a reflection point for me and my family where I'm like, okay, is this worth me hanging around till I'm 57? And maybe hoping that, I mean, that's still young. For most people don't retire till they're 65, right? So it's like, okay, I'm not even 40 yet. I got 17 more years of this crap that I have to do, right? Is it going to work, or am I going to be one of those statistics, even though I'm healthy and everything else as I thought? Um, and I knew at that point, that's when I had to have that conversation with my wife. Like, something has to change. We have to change something, because I don't, to me, this job isn't more important to hanging around to seeing my grandkids and being able to share those moments with my life and with my kids. Because I saw my younger kid, like, I was never home, and if I was locked in a room working. Don't bother me, don't see me because I can't, whatever X Y Z. And it sucked, because I realized that, okay, I'm missing these pivotal moments because I can't leave. I can't pick them up from school. I can't take them out to lunch. I can't go to the park and play ball with them because I'm stuck working. So for me, it was that reflection point where I was like, this isn't worth it. It really wasn't. And I realized, like, hey, if I don't take the risk of doing something for myself and for my family now, there's no going back and saying, well, I wish I can go back, like you said. Miss those pivotal points. You can't do it. It's done, dude. Once it's done, it's done. And that's a wrap. And so it was really a hard decision for my family. But ultimately, man, the dividends that it paid was a million times over than me sticking around, being miserable, and ultimately impacting my relationship with my wife and also with my kids. And not only that, but just the separation that it had for me from my faith, because being around evil all day, negative, 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 it eats at you, man. You look at humanity in a very dark light, and I tell people, it's like, you don't realize how dark society is until you've been inside of those walls, and you're literally serving a 30-40 year life sentence because you're there 16 hours a day, right? So, like, to your point, I'm not leaving. These guys are in there 24. I'm in there 20 hours. What's the difference? 4 hours? I don't get to see my kids because they're already sleeping. I don't get to see my wife because she's already sleeping. I don't get to eat and go out to, all this stuff like 2 days out of the week, maybe, but the rest of it I'm working. So it's a dark reality that I think a lot of people don't face. And whether it's bodybuilding or not, like you said, it's just quality of life. And you realize, like, hey, you can take all these medications and supplementations, but if your lifestyle isn't actually, you know, being the same, I guess, what you're expecting, it's not going to work. I mean, short term, maybe you might fix a couple of things, but you're not going to be like, hey, I feel healthy, I feel happy, I feel great. You may look great, but your interior is saying you're trash, dude. And that's what it was for me. Exterior wise, I was like, dude, I look the greatest I've ever looked. And then I got that blood work back. I'm like, holy smokes, what happened, dude? Like, it was a big alarm for me to have that happen. And it was a reality check. Something's got to give. What's more important? Making money and not being around for your kids? Or is it, hey, you got to figure something out and do something that's going to allow you to stick around, be healthy, and have the quality of life that you expect to have, that you worked so hard to achieve at this point? Or are you just going to throw in the towel and say, hey, you know what, just go through the motions and hopefully I can make it to retirement and enjoy my retirement at that point? And then meanwhile, my kids are like, dude, I don't even know who you are. Like, I've grown up, and see you later, I'm out.
And thankfully, now that there's there's so many different ways to earn a living.
Yeah.
The idea of like, okay, I'm going to go work for IBM for 25 years and get my gold watch, and that's it. It's like,
Mhm.
thankfully, that's no longer there. I mean, for
Yep.
some people it is, and some people truly want that lifestyle. I know I did it. I remember
Yeah.
the first time that I got a paycheck that had taxes taken out of it, and I was like, I'll tell you right now,
What
bro,
is this?
never again.
Yeah.
But I always tried, like I tell my wife, I'm like, for years when I started coaching, when I did it full time,
Yeah.
I would go to all the shows because I wanted to make face. I wanted people to know the face to the name. And so I wanted to network, I wanted to meet people, and my dream, growing up was I wanted to be the pro bodybuilder. I wanted to be on, the magazine. I wanted to do all these things. And did I lose you? And we're back from technical difficulties.
My bad.
Nah, that happens. Okay. So we left off, we were talking about finding balance and all these things and making sure that you're present in the moment and whatnot. And I was saying that when I started coaching full time, that I was traveling a lot and I was going to all these shows and I was all over the country, and it was great. But I always went just by myself because, it was a new business and, it's expensive to do that.
Yeah.
I mean, just for me to go from Sacramento to New Jersey for the universe and back, I mean, I don't think I've been able to do that trip for under $2,500, and that's
Yeah.
like that's flying spirits. Like we're cheap,
Yeah.
and so as time has gone on and the success has grown, which is great, and now I've been able to take my wife with me on a handful of these trips. And some places I go, they're just boring. I'm like, dude, like
Yeah.
you're not missing anything. Like you don't need to go.
Nothing there.
Yeah, but I got the opportunity, and like. I don't know why anyone would get married if they didn't enjoy spending time with their person, but I work from home. I'm with my wife all the time, 23 hours a day. The only time that we're not is when she's either working out or I'm working out.
Yeah.
But we enjoy each other's company. We're friends. That's why the fuck we got married. But
I would hope, right?
yeah,
That's another lesson. Marry your friend.
yeah, marry your friend. And but I got a chance to take her with me to Pittsburgh for North Americans.
Yeah.
And I'm so used to just sitting in a hotel looking at half naked people, making sure they don't die, that I'm like, oh, I've been all these places, but I didn't really go explore anywhere. And so
Yeah.
she was like, what are we going to do? And I'm like, what do you mean? What are we going to do? She's like, well, we're not just going to sit in the Airbnb with your athletes. I'm like, oh, okay, I guess we're not. What do you want to do? So I pulled this whole list, and it became like a completely different trip. And I had so much fun because we got a chance to see all sorts of stuff that I would have never done. Like, we were supposed to go to a bodybuilding show in Vancouver, Canada. And the athlete ended up backing out at the last minute, but I was like, well, I'm still going to go.
Yeah.
And so we flew up to Seattle, got a rental car, drove into Canada, spent time up there, came back. We realized that Seattle's a shithole, but
Yes.
yeah,
Same experience you had. Yeah.
but I will tell you, what an incredible opportunity to do stuff like that. Because, I'm just like, okay, I'm going to go sit in the Marriott and wait for my athlete to text me that he's ready for me to come take a look at him. Because that's how I've done it for years. But now I'm like, you mean we can have fun
Yeah.
and do it together? And so
You're
now we're like,
right.
okay, yeah. And now I'm at the point in my coaching career, which, I could not be more blessed. Like I wake up and I get paid to help people. Like I don't think about it that, oh, I'm a coach. Like, yes, I'm a coach and I get to work with some of the best athletes in the entire world. And, I've got a huge resume to back that up with all-time world record powerlifting, pro bodybuilders. Like I've got some cool stuff under my belt. And so now I get the opportunity to help people, but I get to schedule them how I want to. I'm like, hey, I really want to go to that particular place. Let's do that show. And so now I just look at the schedule and I look at my wife. I'm like, where do you want to go?
Yeah.
But like,
you're right.
Yeah. And then like
You're
some
right.
stuff, you would never think that it would be like a fun thing to do. I went to Tupelo, Mississippi 2 years ago.
Yeah.
And I could not begin to tell you how much I truly enjoyed that trip. Not just
Really?
because I went with a good athlete who I really enjoy spending time with, but the town itself, the show, the promoters, it could not have been a more enjoyable experience.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't even care if they're amateurs. If I have an amateur that wants to do the show, I'll fly out to do
Go.
the show.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was that good.
Yeah.
So I tell people, like, if you have the opportunity, it's kind of a pain in the butt to get there because there's no direct flights in there. Like, I flew into Memphis, gross, and then I drove down, and it was only like an hour and a half drive. It wasn't too bad, but
Yeah.
it's cool. Like, it's definitely something to put on your radar. But
Yeah.
the point of that was being present with your people, and
Mhm.
now I get to make this a whole family event. Like, okay, we're gonna go to this particular show. Like, oh
Mhm.
man, one year my wife and I have all these really shitty $10 tattoos because one year we went to Vegas like 5 times. We went there for bodybuilding and powerlifting, and it was just like every other month we were there, and we're like,
Yeah.
let's get one of these $10 tattoos. And now you're like, oh, these are stupid.
At the
But
moment, it was great, though, right?
well, no, you knew they were stupid then too, but you knew that you were there to make memories.
Yeah.
And so,
That's
like,
it.
you know, I try and tell some of the younger guys, especially the amateurs too. I'm like,
Mhm.
doing the local shows are fine. They're close to home and it's nice and
Mhm.
easy. But when you go to do a show that's far away,
Oh, different.
it's totally different. Like, the prep is different, especially if you're used to being in a dry climate and then you're going to go to Mississippi where, the humidity,
Humidity.
like
Oh,
your car is sweating.
yeah.
Your peaking process is going to be different. Your
Different.
hydration is going to be different. So there's all sorts of things to account for, but make it fun, you
Make it
know?
fun, dude. That's the biggest thing.
And if you
And
have,
you're
if you have the opportunity to bring your family with you,
Mhm.
do it because you're already used to prepping with those people in your
Yep.
home. And
It
if
makes
you
it
go to a
it's more
hotel
fun.
by yourself, you're going to be so bored that you're just going to start playing these mind games.
Mhm. Trust me, I know you're speaking nothing but facts, bro. And funny enough, man, because my wife came to me to do Vancouver one year too. The same thing. Dude, we flew into Seattle. I was like, this. We actually flew into Seattle. Our intention was driving to Seattle, drive to Vancouver, or fly to Seattle, drive to Vancouver, and then after the show, come back to Seattle and spend a couple of days. And man, I was like, this sucks, dude. I should have just stayed in Vancouver.
We,
Vancouver was
we
freaking
said the
phenomenal.
same thing.
But and my wife came with me in that show, and we had such a blast, dude. Like, it was literally probably one of the funnest trips that I ever done as far as competing wise. To your point, if I would have went by myself, I wouldn't have done all the city exploring, all the adventures. We went up in the mountains. We went, through all Vancouver. Literally ate every type of food they had, which was great.
Did
Um,
you go to that suspension bridge, that Capistrano Bridge?
Yep. Well, we went out there in the mountains. We
Yeah.
went to I forgot what that name of that ski resort is. It's really popular. But it's
Whistler?
across the bridge. Yeah, Whistler.
Yeah.
Uh, we went up there. Is it Whistler? No, what is it? I forgot the name of it. That might be what it's called. I don't know.
It's like a 30-40 minute drive outside of
Yeah,
Vancouver. Yeah.
yeah.
Whistler.
And it was like such a like literally, dude. That was probably one of the coolest experiences I've had, and it's such a phenomenal city. Everyone was super nice. The
Oh,
food was
we loved
phenomenal.
it. We
We
were like,
loved it, dude.
let's do more shows here.
Yeah,
This is great.
I
Yeah.
know. That's why I told my wife, funny enough, I was like, hey, if I do a show next year, I was like, let's take the kids up there. Let's go up to Vancouver. I was like, but we're not staying in Seattle. We'll just fly into Seattle and drive up.
So
But the drive was cool. Like, just like to your point, like just
yeah.
driving up through Seattle all the way to Vancouver, it's such a beautiful drive. And like the time that we got to spend doing that, it was just like really cool. It's like almost like surreal. So yeah, to your point, man, like once actually got married and my wife started coming out with me, and even funny enough, when I did nationals in Miami, we actually got legally married in Miami. To your point, like we had such a great time. We're like, hey, let's just get married here. We're already here. Let's just go to the courthouse and, do the paperwork, whatever. And it was like, how different would it have been if I just went by myself, got smoked on that show, was miserable, and now here I am eating by myself in Miami and not enjoying it. But instead, it actually turned out to be really fun to a point where like, hey, let's go eat here, let's go to the beach, let's go do this, Coconut Grove and all this stuff. Like, so it makes it so much more enjoyable, and the amount of pressure it alleviates off of you if you do it correctly, right? Because there's some people that are just like, no, don't talk to me, leave me
Yeah.
alone, I gotta focus. And it's such a toxic way to compete. That's why I tell guys like, dude, when you see me backstage, I mean, you see me, dude. I'm always shooting the shit, like talking to guys, like, "Hey, is this your first time competing, dude? You look great. Like, congratulations. Give yourself some kudos. You made it. All this show stuff is it's just a presentation part, but you've already accomplished everything that you set out to. So give yourself credit. Enjoy the moment. Like, enjoy being backstage. Talk to as many people as you can. Like, I tell guys like, "Hey, do you need rice cakes? Do you need this? Like, whatever it is, like, and have fun, dude. Like, it's not that serious. Like, these guys get so hyper focused on like, I can't look at this dude or like, how much band work is he doing before he gets on stage or what is he carbing up with? And that are like, dude, like,
Oh, I know. The
I,
the
I'm
the the
just chilling,
sizing
dude.
up game. Thankfully, that's not too much at a national or a pro level.
No, you're right. I think that's more of the lower level of these guys just think that you have to be like this Billy badass and be really toxic when you're backstage. And granted, there
I
are
train
pros
at
like
a
that
I
too.
train at a warehouse in the
Yeah,
dark
yeah, exactly.
with no AC
Yeah.
and no heater. Yeah.
And then they ask me, where do you train? I'm like, "Oh, I train at the local, Cal Fit or whatever, where all these kids, I take my kids to daycare or whatever it is." It's like, and that's why I tell people, like, where do you train? I'm like, I train anywhere I can, dude. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Like, I've won a pro show competing at a family fitness. Like it's not where you train, dude. Yeah, it's cool to go to those gyms, but it doesn't mean you got to sign up to these hardcore gyms to be successful in bodybuilding. It's like you said, it goes back to the work, right? When I work out by myself. I don't work out with a partner. Um, I've done that for 10 plus years, and for me, it just allows me to hyper focus when I'm there, get in and out and go back to my family. Like, I'm not trying to be there for 2 hours or 2.5 hours. If I'm there more than an hour and a half, I usually get pissed because I'm like, dude, I'm taking too much time, whether it's, dom scrolling, whatever it is that most people do in the gym, right? We're all
Yeah.
guilty of it. Um, but yeah, if you're on prep, the last thing I want to do is spend 3 hours in the gym, dude. I want to go home and eat. Like, I want to
Yeah.
go home and relax or do
My
whatever,
my
spend time on
house
my
is my
kids.
sanctuary. It's clean,
Yeah.
it's safe. I'm happy there. I want to sit on my expensive couch that I spent a lot of money on. Like, yeah, I want to
Yeah.
enjoy it.
Yeah,
So
it's to your point, man. It's all about prioritizing what's important to you in your life, and I think that a lot of people struggle with that because there's so many outliers in social media that tell you otherwise. Like, you got to do all this crazy shit. Like, dude, life does not have to be like that. Yes, you could find balance and be successful. It doesn't mean like, hey, that you're not going to give 1,000%, but it also you understand when to turn it off, right? It's the same thing with law enforcement. Like, hey, I wasn't Billy Badass in the street with my badge out and stopping everybody when they broke a law. Like, dude, most people never even knew I was in law enforcement. Like, until I told them, like, really? I'm like, yeah. Like, oh, that's weird. You're not wearing, all these crazy shirts. And I'm like, dude, I'm not. I'm a dad. That to me, and this is what I tell people: your career is your career. It's not who you are.
yeah.
It's not your identity. And so many people get so caught up in the career and then becoming their identity. They hang out with people from work all the time. They talk about work all the time when they're not at work. They socialize with people just from work. Like, dude, separate. And that for me, that's what bodybuilding gave me, that escape, because I didn't hang out with people from work. And it's not that I didn't enjoy people from work, but I also knew I don't want to hear about work. I don't want to hear about what's going on when I'm not at work. People call me, say, this happened. Da, da, da. To me, it was like, I want to be completely disconnected to the point where I don't even think about work until I'm going to work. And that's what bodybuilding gave me, that escape, at least for me in general, because when I first got in his career, it was that same thing, hyper focus. Like, you're going to sign up to do CERT and SWAT and all this other cool stuff. And then after a while, I'm like, why am I wanting to spend more time at work when I enjoy doing all this other stuff outside of work? And so it became this separation, right? It's like, this is my job when I'm there. As soon as I clock out, I am not that person. I am dad. I am husband. I am family member. I am friend. Whatever it is that your identity is, keep that. Don't lose sight of it. And the same thing goes when you get into bodybuilding. Don't lose sight of who you are before you started competing, right? You may lose friends throughout that process because your lifestyle is going to change for the better. And you may not fit that same category of people that you used to socialize with because they're still in that drinking and smoking and whatever it is. And that's okay. Doesn't mean you can't talk to them or socialize with them. It just means that you're in a different phase of life where you're identifying what's most important to you. Just like you said, being a husband, right? Being a father. You identify those things like, hey, instead of going and shooting pool, whatever it is, like, I'd rather spend time with my kids. you know? And so for me, at my point in my life, like I tell people, I don't have a ton of friends because I don't choose to have a ton of friends. I rather spend time with my family, my faith, my wife. I tell my wife all the time, she's like, well, why don't you go hang out and do all this stuff? I'm like, because I really don't have the desire to. Like, I enjoy being at home and with my kids. Like, that makes me happy. Going to the gym is my escape for that hour, whatever it is. And then when I come back, it's just back to business, whether it's working on trading or whatever it is. But even with trading, it's like we were talking about, like I only do that for maybe an hour or 2 hours a day at most. The rest of the day spent with my kids and doing stuff and being super dad, whatever it may be, because that to me brings joyfulness to my heart. And competing is just like we have fun with it now. Like I said, when my last show that I did, like my wife came with me, we made a little trip out of it for a weekend and made it fun. So it's very, very important to find what really matters in life. Because, like to your point, it's not endless. It's going to end at some point. And if you look back in 15, 20 years, like, dude, I was such a shithead and I lost everything, whether it was because of competing or because of my career. And then all of a sudden, and this is a funny, oddly enough, this is a funny thing I always tell people is those people that are so hyper focused on that, right? This is priority number one. You end up realizing that, they get close to retirement, all of a sudden, their kids are gone out of the house, their wife left them, half their pension's gone, all their toys that they were thought were really important at the time, they're old and they sold them for half of whatever it is and never enjoyed it because they were always working. And now it's like, so what honor or what badge do you have to show your accomplishments in life? Is it just because of your position and your career? Like, nobody's gonna care, dude. As soon as you leave, I realized very quickly that I was just a number. I am just a number, dude. As soon as I'm gone, nobody cares. They'll gossip and say this or da da da. And the reality is, the only people that care are the people that I ignored and isolated the most in my life. So it's like your family, your wife, your kids. Once that's gone, man, you can't go back and retrace and say, "Hey, I'm here now," because they're like, "Dude, I don't even know who you are." Like it's to the point where you got to realize that's important. Your kids are important. Your wife is important. You can still compete. You can still have them come along. You can still enjoy great food with them. Like there is a balance that you could find. And those are the people that are honestly really successful in life. I mean, look at Jeremy. He's a father, right? Look at Aaron Banks. He's a father too. These guys love being dads. And then you have the outliers that all they do is like they're 40 some years old and then you hear them and all they talk about is bodybuilding, bodybuilding, bodybuilding. They look miserable. I'm like, dude, you're 40 some years old. What are you gossiping about other bodybuilders? And it's like, I mean, the guys that I have the most respect for, honestly, are the ones that have understood it and learned it early in their careers in bodybuilding and realized like, hey man, no, I'm a dad, dude. Like I'm good. Like I don't want to hang out with people. Like I want to spend time with my family. Like, or build a business. Like some of these guys in bodybuilding, people don't realize, man, they're extremely successful outside of bodybuilding.
Oh yeah.
Like they think that, oh, it's just competing, da da da. It's like, nah, dude, like,
The
they're,
amount of money that you make from competing is so minuscule,
oh,
but you
yeah,
can utilize your competitive career to parlay into
yes,
other venues, and it works out very, very well. Like
yep,
there in this kind of work, I remember back in the day, people would be like, "Oh man, wouldn't it be so nice to make 10 grand a month?"
yeah,
And I'm like, do the math, because it's not much. It's like
no,
270 something bucks a day.
yeah.
I'm like, I spend way more than that at the casino.
I spend that more on DoorDash, dude. Don't tell nobody.
I got receipts for that. That's a brutal one. But staying true to who you are is a really crucial thing, especially in the fitness industry, because people
Yes.
see through the bullshit really
Yep.
fast. And once you're blacklisted, you're just done. And
Mhm.
so I've been the same person with less hair, but the same person for the last 20 something years. I've coached
Yeah.
the same way. I've had the same principles. There might have been a couple little refinements to make things more efficiently, but
Yeah,
the
you learn.
style has never changed. The workout styles have never changed. Again, maybe the order or something, or maybe like the wording, the key to getting something to fire more correctly
Yeah.
has been upgraded. But the base has been the exact same. And I remember when I used to train out of Old School Iron in Vacaville, California, I was there for a handful of years. And this lady came up to me one day. She goes, "You know what? I like you." And I was like, "Thanks." She goes, "I like that you are the same person." And I was like, "What do you
Yeah.
mean?" She says, "When I first met you, I thought you were just a bizarre, really vulgar guy." And she goes, "Which is still true, but you've been the same all this
Yeah.
time. You're like,
Yeah.
you've done all these things with all these athletes, but you're literally just the same guy." And I'm like, "Why would I ever change? Like, what is the point? I'm still the same guy. I might make some off-color jokes here and there,
Yeah.
but everything that I do has had purpose and been the same." But I wanted to bring something up because I wanted to circle back because I don't know if you'd remember this. I remember telling you you were backstage and I sent you a message telling you should have a candy bar. And you sent me a message back. You're like, "They don't eat candy bars at the pro level." And someone sent me a picture of you eating a Snickers
Get it over.
backstage.
Yeah. See, there you go, dude. It's like,
Yeah.
who cares, man? Just eat it, you
I
know?
was like, I told you they do.
But it goes back to your point, though, right? Because you think that all of a sudden you're at the. I remember my first pro show was Spectrum here in SAC, right? And dude, the first time on stage, I'm up there with Ismail, all these Olympians. Like literally, I think every guy up there was an Olympian except maybe one or two of us that were like brand new to the game. But I'm like looking at him, I'm like, holy smokes, this is a whole nother level, dude. And I'm like, am I really at this level? Like it was a surreal moment because it was almost like a, not necessarily an eye opener, but almost like a humbling, like, dude, you made it. Like you made it. Like, this is crazy. Like you used to see these guys and be like, man, that'd be so dope to be on stage with these guys. And even stepping on stage at Legion with all those monsters, dude, like,
You turned a dream
dude,
into a reality.
it was a reality check, but it was also more like, in talking to a lot of them, you realize like you're just a normal guy, dude.
Just a normal dude.
You're a normal dude. Like your dad, like some of these guys were dead. Like Ciroc, he's a dad, he's a firefighter. Like he's like, dude, I'm chilling backstage and I'm trying to feed him candy. I'm like, here, eat this candy, you know? And no, it was cool though, because throughout that process, you start really meeting all these people. And I remember at Legion specifically, I was backstage and I think Omar had texted one of his guys. He's like, "Hey, I work with Omar," and we just started shooting the shit. And it was like, he's like, "Omar speaks so highly about you, man. It was cool just meeting you." And to me, like that just speaks volumes, dude. Like that was always for me. Like I never wanted anybody to come across me and say that dude was a dick. Like he was an asshole, And I never done that. And that's one thing that I can tip my hat off and say I've always been the same guy backstage. I've always encouraged other people if I can give them a little tip of advice, like how to, activate their lats, especially if they're brand new, like they don't know, like I didn't know,
Yeah.
like, hey, squeeze your back or lift up or focus on the head judge or make sure you're angling correctly so the head judge has a straight shot at you so you look wide, whatever. Like stuff that most people are like, don't tell them, right? Is this a competition? I'm like, I don't care, dude. Like the body work
It's
is
a
done.
competition. I wouldn't want to win if no
Yeah.
one showed up.
Right.
If
Yeah,
I
that's
want
the
to
thing.
win, I want to win because I was truly the best, not because, oh, that guy couldn't flare his lats and they just gave it to me out of, oh, you win by
Yeah,
default.
dude.
But
And-
being an enjoyable, nice person pays dividends in every aspect of your life. I was in Canada for the Toronto Pro, and I went to a gym. I had Brian with me, and so he was doing his pro debut out there. And so I went to the gym. I was going to go work out. I was like, I'm just stuck in this hotel. I got to go do something. So
Yeah.
I drove over. I Ubered. I Ubered over there, and I met Emilio, who is the big promoter out of Spain.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to work out with Emilio. We were both doing legs, and I was like,
Yeah.
because he was waiting for me. I was like, "Do you want to just
Not
work
like me
out?"
doing it. Not like me doing it, Z.
And he was like, "Yeah." And we had a great conversation, and he was the nicest guy.
Yeah.
And we were wrapping things up, and he looks over and he goes, "You're very strong." And I was like, "Yay, thanks." But then I
Yeah.
saw him the next day backstage, and we had another great conversation. I was like, man, I don't know what I had in my head. I just, he was like this bigger than life guy for me. I was like, that's the guy.
Yeah.
And he was just just a dude with broken English. He was great.
Yeah, and that's the same thing with me when I met Johnny at Legion, because that was Johnny's last show as a pro, right? And he'd already ran the gamut. He did men's physique, classic, open. I was like, this dude is just a legend, right? And it just so happened that Omar had texted him, say, "Hey, look for my boy Eric there." And then I met Johnny. He's like, "Hey, Maze, I just talked to Omar. He said you're gonna be here." And he was just like talking to me like I'm like somebody, right? I'm like, holy smokes, like, dude, I never thought I was going to be on stage with you, and here I am shooting the shit with you. And then we actually ended up becoming great friends. And now when I compete, I see him coaching and everything else, and he's like, "Let me check you out. Let me see how you're looking," you know. But it's so cool because, to your point, like, he's a dad. He's a dad. He's a coach. He's been a competitor, like at the top level, higher than I ever will be. And so me, it's an honor to sometimes share these moments with these guys and call these guys friends, whether it's Ariel, Omar, whoever it is, you, like, all these guys I have so much respect for, because people lose sight of that. Like we talked about, like the bodybuilding industry and, I guess, demographic has just been portrayed as being so toxic, and yet it has its toxicity. And I tell people, if you look for it, you're going to find it. But if you gravitate to the right people, if you're, like you said, if you're continuing to be who are all the time, that's never going to change, man. Like, I've met so many, like, just dope dudes across the country. And it's so funny because then you don't know when these guys is going to do a show, and then you show up, you're like, oh shit, like, you catch up after 3-4 years of not seeing them.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's cool because it's like you never lost touch of those guys. Like, the conversations backstage is about family, how your kids doing, you know, how you've been doing, man. Like, it's not about, hey, how'd you peak this week, or, you know, what are you doing differently, or, you know, what's your coach? Like, I don't have those conversations
No,
backstage. It's
they're
always
they're
about
always
just
friendly, and they're always
always friendly,
about not bodybuilding related
and
stuff.
makes it fun, dude. That's why I tell people, like, that was the one thing that I noticed at the pro level. Everybody's having fun. I mean, there are those outliers. These dudes are just like really weird and hide in the corner, but it's like, hey, if you want to be that weird dude, be that weird dude. But for me, I know that this isn't going to last forever. And I want to be able to cherish every moment that I've been blessed enough to be on this stage and honor enough to step on these stages with all these guys, and never lose sight of that. Like, I always tell people, like, for me to even, like, say some of these guys, like, on a first name basis, to me, it was like incredible. Like, that alone is just like made it worth it. Like, holy smokes, I'm stepping on stage and these guys, I'm looking at him backstage. I'm like, dude, you look great up there. Like, it's dope. Like, to me, that's fun. Like, I'm not in some pity party. Like, oh, I placed 13th and I'm pissed. I'm like, dude, these guys are 13 Olympians, and these guys just ran 3 show gamut and won all of them. And, like, I'm like, dude, this is so cool. I get to see this, like, first eye vision, and see it, like, and absorb it and enjoy it. And, you know, some of my buddies backstage, they'll tell you, like, well, we'll be sharing a phone, watching a football game or movie while we're waiting to go up on stage, or just laughing and joking. And that's why I always tell guys, enjoy the moment, man. You work so hard to just go up there and just be miserable or pissed at the outcome. Like, even my last show, they go like, oh, you know, you placed second. I'm like, yeah, I placed fucking second. I only did a 6-week prep. That's pretty good. Like, I was blown away myself that I placed second and then placed top 10 and open. Like, dude, like, I'm excited, but, like, aren't you upset? I'm like, why would I be? Like, these guys are all, like, murderers, dude. Like, these are killers. These aren't, like, just your average Joe stepping on stage. Like, to even step on stage, let alone place, and let alone do such a short prep. Like, don't hyper focus. Like, second is phenomenal. Dude, you were one position away from qualifying for the Masters Olympia. Like, do I know I can do it? 1,000%. And I know that I can do it if I gave myself a long enough prep and gave my coach a long enough prep. Am I pissed about the outcome? No. Like, I haven't competed in what, 3 years? I think it's been 3 years since I competed, and I placed second my first show back. And, you know, for top 10 and open against, what, 20 guys, we're like, man. And
Pretty
some of these guys
solid.
are already,
Pretty
yeah,
solid.
some of these guys already did 3 shows in the year, and they're, you know, they look dialed in. So for me to do that, and all of a sudden this prep, I'm running and doing more, you know, crazy shit. It's like, I didn't think I was going to be able to step on stage and be very competitive. And for me to do that, it just tells me that, you know, again, to your point, right? You only limit yourself as much as you want to. And that's one of the things that I do give myself credit for. The naysayers have never really affected me, dude. Like, it's always been like, I've always been the little dude. I've always been the underdog. I've always been this dude. Like, I remember even when I was working in the prisons, the guys would be like, "Dude, you placed fifth. Like, why are you even competing? Like, it's pointless. Like, you're not placing top two or one. You're not winning medals or whatever it is." And I'm like, okay, like I'm still gonna do my thing. I'm still gonna go through my motions. I'm still gonna eat. I'm still gonna exercise. And sure enough, right? 3 years later, 2 years later, top two, top one overall. The first national show that I did with Ariel, which is actually my first show that I did with Ariel, believe it or not, he ends up turning me pro. And then like the next show that we do again, top two in the first open that I do with at the pro level, at masters level. I'm like, dude, look at it. Like the body of work, like you said, it always speaks for itself. If you put in the work, at the end of the day, your consistency is going to pay off, and that's just with anything in life, right? We talk about business, and that's why for me, at least, the what I always tell people, what do you get out of bodybuilding? For me, it's set the foundation for everything else in life. It's the understanding that your expected outcome may not come as quick as you think it is, right? It may take you a couple years. It may take you longer than most other guys. Some guys may go pro the first 3 shows or 2 shows, but that comparison thing, it's like that's just a killer in anything. It's the same thing in life, right? It's the same thing in social media. You see 20-year-olds driving Lambos. You may not be that kid at 20-year-olds driving Lambos. It may take you 20 years. But if you do it for 20 years, don't you think you're just gonna be just as happy when you're 40 years old and driving that Lambo? Or the same thing with building a business. You may not have $1 million in revenue your first year. It may take you 10, but 10 years making $1 million a year in revenue compared to working a corporate job for 30 years and making 60,000 a year and being miserable. I think that I will take those odds and still go the other route, right? So that's to what we were talking about. Like that's the beauty of it. That's to me, that's why people are like, well, and I remember when I first started running, people are like, oh, so you're done with bodybuilding? I'm like, no, dude, I'm just trying something new. Like I want a new challenge. For me, it was okay, I'm turning 40. My CDL levels are terrible. My cholesterol is really high. My all this stuff, not because of bodybuilding, but because of the stress that I had with work. So what can I challenge myself that maybe is going to alleviate some of that stress that I really hate doing? And for me, it was running. I've always hated running. I've never been a runner. But I knew that I needed to challenge myself with something different because I knew with bodybuilding, at least I got too comfortable. I knew that I could do it. Like it's to me, doing a 6 week prep and jumping on stage was like no big deal. It's like, okay, cool. I know what I need to do. And I think somebody just talked about it. It might have been Flex. I don't know who it was, but I was watching a podcast. But he was talking about it too. He's like, hey, bodybuilding is the easiest thing in your life, dude. What are you complaining about? You're complaining about eating, having your meals on time, and working out. Like, what is it that you're really struggling with? It's like, me running a business outside of bodybuilding, that's stressful. Like me making paychecks for my employees, that's stressful. This is the enjoyment. This is the fun part. This is where you get to enjoy and eat and exercise and look great and all this stuff. And he was valid, man. He's like, I'm like, dude, you're 1,000% right. Like we have such a honor to even compete, let alone be physically fit enough to jump on that stage and do that stuff. Like to me, I don't take that for granted, man. Like that's why I tell people it's something that I enjoy doing and I'll probably do as long as I can. Maybe not to the extent where I've had it in a couple years, but I've known that doing hard shit is always fun for me. Like being miserable is not necessarily being miserable. It's more of a mental fortitude thing to show me it can be done. And obviously, just from my last show, I competed and I said I was going to do a marathon the next day. And it was like, there's no way you're going to do that. Like you're literally like two opposites on the spectrum. You're completely deficient. And all of a sudden you want to be completely loaded up to do some crazy amount of mileage the very next day within 24 hours, less than 24 hours. But I did it. And I tell people why am I putting limitations as far as what I know I can do when I've done it and people have already told me I wasn't going to be able to, and now here I am and people are like, "Oh shit, it is achievable." Like you don't have to put yourself in a box. You can be a dad, you can be a bodybuilder, you can be a pro, you can be a business owner, you can be a great husband, you can be a marathon runner or an Ironman or a Hyrox athlete, whatever it is that you enjoy doing, right? and not put yourself in a box and say, I only compete in bodybuilding or I only do powerlifting. You can go and do all these things in sway, right? And then so it's like you can if you want to, but the only person that is limiting it is you, is nobody else. It's like if you can allow people to put you in the box, then it's always going to be that way. And it's like that with corporate world as well, too, right? At
Because you're
some
well, you're
point,
just you're putting a ceiling on it. So
yeah, and you are.
if
And you know, for me, funny enough, like you know, sometimes you do these reflection points, right? For me, even now, like even with having a run club, like you realize people always want to tell you what to do, right? They always tell you that no, you should do this or you should do that, or this is the way it's supposed to be. At some point, like throughout your career, the same thing, right? You've always had bosses, you've always had people take credit for things that maybe you've accomplished that you never got credit for. And it's just so demoralizing. At some point in your life, you got to get tired of people giving you that piece of paper. Here you go, you got to do this now. Or here, this is the way you're supposed to do it. Or this is our protocol for us to do this stuff. You got to venture out on your own, man. Like you got to write your own story. You got to be able to say, you know what, I've had that enough in my life to where now it's me writing that book. It's me dictating what decisions I make. And if you're not okay with it, that's okay. No hard feelings, man. But that's something that you learn. I learned it from bodybuilding. Like I learned, like, hey, you know what? I'm not going to make everybody happy. I'm not going to be maybe the best friend that I could be to this person because I don't have the same lifestyle that person has. It doesn't mean I hate them for it. It just means I choose not to hang out with them because it's not what I enjoy doing. I enjoy being with my family. I enjoy going to the gym, and finding those balances and finding the people, like you said, that you enjoy those things with makes it so much fun, man. Cause now, like, even with the run club, I enjoy it with my wife. My wife comes out every weekend when we do it. And now we're growing it the way that we want to without having anybody dictate what we do or don't do. Same thing with coaching, right? I choose who I decide to coach and who I don't. I know I'm not a certain fit with certain people. I may be too harsh or I may be too direct to some people. And some people want to get sugar coated and, maybe have a coach who tells them it's okay. That, no, you made a mistake. And, it's part of life. And, I'm like, hey, dude, like, how bad do you want it? Do you want to compete? Then great, because guess what? Um, Nobody's going to force you to. And if you show up, game day and you don't look the way that you thought you were going to look, you have no one to blame because I know what I do, it works. And it's the same thing with Ariel, right? Ariel, it will tell me like, hey, I tell him all the time, hey, if you don't think I'm ready, because people are like, oh, you still have a coach? I'm like, absolutely. And I'll always have a coach because it'd be stupid for me to think that I'm going to hold myself accountable to the standard that I expect because you're you, right? You're going to make excuses. You're going to say, well, I can do this, I can tweak that. But at the end of the day, having a fresh set of eyes who's going to tell you directly, like, hey, nah, you ain't it. Or, we need to look better, or you really need to lock in at this point.
having
Um,
those sober eyes is so
yeah,
crucial because
it's
thankfully you have such a good support system around you, but there's other people that don't.
no, they
And
don't.
they're like, "Oh, well, I'm flat." And so they overeat. And I'm like,
Yeah,
"You're
right?
2 weeks out from a show. Like
Yeah.
your idea of what flat is versus what real flat is not the
Mhm.
same."
No,
And you're just
no.
going to, well, because, oh, I don't have veins bursting from the skin.
So what?
You woke up 5 minutes ago. I would be very concerned if you did.
Yeah, I mean, you got a little too many carbs in you right now, buddy. Too much
Yeah.
sugar going on.
Well,
Yeah.
so
It's true though, man.
yeah.
We talk about it all the time offline, and even with us, like, right, I might not talk to you for 6 months, and then all of a sudden, like, we run into each other, not knowing that we're both going to be at wherever we're at, and it's an organic conversation, and that's how it should be. This sport should be organic in everything that you discuss. The stage is a stage. The stage is always going to be there. The time you're on stage is, like I tell people, you work 6 months, a year to be on stage less than 2 minutes. I mean, as a pro, you get more time, right? But um, I enjoy it, man. Like even like in the last show that I did, like meeting the people that I did, some of the guys I've never competed with, utter respect, man. Like it's just fun. To me, it is just fun. I don't look people up and down and say, okay, well, where's my deficiency? I've already done the work. It's like I know what I'm bringing it is what I'm bringing. I can't help if this other guy looks, 5 times better all of a sudden and he peaked it perfectly. And like, kudos to him, dude. Like, you killed it this show.
Yeah.
I know that will be another show, and then I know that I can come back and, okay, I know I make these adjustments or maybe pose a little bit differently, whatever it may be. But at the end of the day, like I still have a lot of fun talking to a lot of these guys and seeing a lot of these guys go from amateur to pro. I mean, there's guys that reached out and I'm like, hey, dude, stick with it. You're going to turn pro. I mean, even at my San Jose show, there was, Vinny, he was back there and he was still, I think it was his second show with Johnny. And I told him, I'm like, dude, you're going to go pro. I was like, and I told him that show, I was like, you're going to win. Like, you look great. I'm not just bullshitting you. Like, I'm telling you, like, you look good. And sure enough, he ended up going pro and I got to compete with him the first time. And so those are the kind of moments that I enjoy because I know that even when I did Taco Show the first time, I think Hart, that was one of his first shows that he did. And he'll tell you, he tells that story when I first turned pro. He's like, this was one of the first guys that came up to me backstage and was like, hey, let me help you, and giving him advice and everything. I didn't know he was going to turn up to be this insanely popular podcaster, let alone start a podcast, right? I was just being me. I was just being, enjoying the moment and seeing some of these guys that maybe didn't have a coach backstage that, hey, let me help you. These are little things you can do when you pose out there, or tweak this angle a little bit so you look like a little bit wider on stage, and have fun with it, right? Not being this dickhead who's just like, oh, dude, you guys are below me or you guys are first timers. Like, dude, there's no reason to do that. And in this industry, unfortunately, it gets that stigmatism that comes along with it, but it's really not like that. I mean, there's a lot of great people that I've met in this industry, and bodybuilding has netted so many more positives than negatives in my life that if I went back and said, well, would you do it again? I'd be 1,000%. I would have done it probably earlier in my life because I think of the discipline and the things that it would have gave me structurally in my 20s would have been more beneficial to me by the time I turned 30. Um, but yeah, it's cool. It's cool to see the journey. It's cool to meet people who are like-minded, people who think differently. I think that it takes a different type of beast, both men and women. And that's the other thing. It's, men, I hate to say it, but we're more babies than women. Man, I tell anybody, any female, even my wife, when she competed, I'm like, the amount of things that they have to go through to even step on stage because of hormones and everything else. It's like, I tip my hat off to all those women. I'm like, dude, you guys have it 10 times harder than we did as men. And that's why when I see dudes bitching about eating, oh, I got to eat ground beef or whatever it is, I'm like, dude, what are you complaining about? Like, you don't understand how hard women have to work
You're
to get
doing
their
a
body
fourth of
fat.
the cardio that the lady
Yeah,
equivalent is
dude.
to
Like,
do. Yeah.
I remember my wife doing like legitimate full sprints every day just to get her legs down. Because she carried so much muscle in her legs just from being a track person in college. And to see her do that with like, 1,200 calories a day, and then she's just smash it, do like literally running full sprints for an hour and then doing cardio again twice a day. It's like,
Hmm.
what am I bitching about?
Yeah.
I'm sitting here doing the Stairmaster or walking on the incline, right? And I'm like,
I'm
okay,
watching Netflix while I do this too.
yeah,
Yeah.
dude. It's like, is it really that bad? Like, it's like, what are we complaining about? And that's, again, to your point, you probably have a lot of aspects like that too, right? Like, hey, like, dude, take a step back. If this is something you really want, then you'll enjoy it. If it's something you're really struggling with from the get-go, then maybe this isn't for you, and that's okay. And I tell guys all the time too, right? The guys reach out to me now and say, hey, I want to do more hybrid stuff like you're doing. I'm like, you can do it, man. That there's no reason you can't do it, but it's hard work. And the thing that really fascinates me, because people ask, well, what got you into running? Like, what really made you fall in love with it? For me, it was once I understood how similar marathon running or just long distance running is to bodybuilding competitions. Like the similarities are like identical. People don't realize that. Like you're still peaking, you're still sodium loading certain ways, like, and that's where people miss the mark with running. It's just like bodybuilding, right? If you're not peaking right, you're not going to perform right. And the same thing happens with marathon running. Like people are like, how did you run 26.2 miles? Because I peaked right. I understood that carbs are important, sodium intake is important, nutrition is important by, uploading up into a race. And a lot of guys who've been running for 15 plus years don't understand that. And every time they do a marathon, they crash out at mile 19, 18, whatever it is. And I'm like, what are you doing? Well, I'm only drinking water. I don't need all this other stuff. I'm like, yeah, you need gels,
Yeah, you
dude,
do.
especially
Yeah, you do.
you need carbs. You need salt. Like salt is your friend, dude. Like you're losing a ton of salt. Like you don't understand that. So that's what really made me fall in love with running. On top of the fact that now I like, all the different technology is different than it was when I first was looking at it. But to me, finding that balance now, being able to say, I'm going to go bang out 13 miles and not really worried about it. It wasn't anything that I had in my my bingo card 4 years ago, 3 years ago, let alone, but now being able to say I can do both. And now I want to prepare to do an Ironman. Like those are things I just want to check off my list. And I say, I know that I can achieve it and I can still look like a bodybuilder. I don't have to look like this scrawny person where it's like this, oh, you're going to lose all your muscle and, oh, you're giving up on bodybuilding. And that's why I did this show and the run last time, on the same weekend, because I'm like, I'm going to prove it to you guys. You don't have to put yourself in this box. If you choose to put yourself in that box, then that's you, man. I'm going to show you that this shit is utterly possible and you can do it at a top level and not like be this person. I just did it, but no, like you can be competitive, and I did, and and I showed it, and even on a 6 week prep, like it's like, here you go, dude. Can you
Anything's
imagine if I would
possible.
actually done like a legitimate prep and not necessarily ran as much as I did, or ate sourdough bread as much as I did, maybe leading up to the show, but it's cool, man. You can find that balance and understand that there's the pluses and negatives to both, right? There's pluses to being a bodybuilder and having muscle mass, and there's pluses and negatives for running as well too. Like you got to figure out what's more important to you as you get older. I realize I'm 42 now, and bodybuilding maybe not necessarily be something that I'm able to do at the peak level for more, maybe 5, 6 more years. As you turn 50, it's kind of like, okay, what's more important? For me, it was heart health, cardiovascular health, and longevity. And that's what, as you get older, you lose things, right? You lose those fast twitch fibers. And for me, doing sprints was important. Running was important because I don't want to lose those things. I want to still be athletic enough to be able to run out in the field and look great as a dad, but not necessarily run out of gas when I'm trying to go out there and play with my kid, even though I look great. And people are like, you look at this stiff dude out there like a turtle, but you can't run for more than 2 minutes, and you get gassed out. Now I showed it, like, hey, you can do it. You're
Yeah.
looking great. You can be a dad. You can look muscular. And the thing is that there's a lot of people that are doing it, not just me. And that's why I tell people, but through this process, that's how I met all those people that are doing it at that peak level, right? All these dads and all these older guys that are 40 plus that are still look freaking like they're 25, but now they're just running these sub, 3.5, 3 hour marathons, whatever it is. I'm like, dude, you're an animal. And then you have all these guys that you meet that are doing 120-mile runs, these ultras. I'm like, they're okay. I'm trying to just do a marathon, but you guys are doing like 120 miles. That's just a whole nother level of just ridiculousness. But it's cool because you get inspired by those people. Just like I've got inspired by people in bodybuilding that are doing it at the Olympia level. You get inspired with people who are doing the same thing with running. It's cool to see it. And again, it's the evolution of anything in life, right? You can't, if you get stuck in doing the same thing over and over in life, it just becomes redundancy, and you lose a passion for it. And for me, bodybuilding, I didn't lose passion for it, but I also knew, like, I'm a pro. Okay, so what's next? What can I challenge myself with? And that's why I eventually started kind of transitioning a little bit into running and doing all that stuff as well too.
Speaking of evolution, I have to go pick up the next generation from
Yeah,
school.
there you go. It's time, dude. Yeah.
Cool. Well, hey,
Well,
man, I really appreciate you taking the time, sitting down, talking with
yeah,
me. It's always a pleasure.
absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. And it was cool having this conversation. It's not one of these stories you get to share all the time, but it was cool being able to have a little heart to heart with you and
Yeah.
share a lot of similarities and things that we obviously talk about offline a couple of other times too.
Oh, yeah. Cool.
Right
Well,
on,
we'll
brother.
definitely have to do this again. We'll dig more into the running stuff too.
Yeah, yeah, for sure, man. We'll catch up.
All right, brother. Well, enjoy the
All
rest
right,
of your
bro.
day.
Thanks for having us. Thank you, bro.